Lord, give our senators unity like the symphony, with its variety of instruments, its many different notes which produce grand harmonies. May our lawmakers produce these melodies on this Super Bowl Sunday.
Wait, what? Did the Super Bowl get a plug and a prayer opening the U.S. Senate? In fact, yes, it did. First time ever. Then again, the Senate doesn't often meet on a Sunday, let alone Super Bowl Sunday. But that's exactly what happened in 2024. And Chaplain Dr. Barry Black did his part to make Senate history. And so did many senators, who also plugged the Super Bowl in their remarks. With this year's Super Bowl approaching, this episode of C-SPAN's podcast, Extreme Mortman, remembers that historic day, a day when U.S. senators were debating and football teams were playing, both at the same time, and both with a lot at stake. Sunday, February 11th, 2024, a huge day for sports and a huge day for spending. In the Super Bowl, the Kansas City Chiefs played the San Francisco 49ers, and in the Senate, Democrats and Republicans debated foreign aid. 2 days earlier, Florida Republican Senator and future Secretary of State Marco Rubio saw what was happening.
The Senate will be in session this weekend, including Super Bowl Sunday, which is fine by me, to deal with this bill that now is, as everyone knows, about Ukraine, funding for Ukraine and its war effort, funding for Israel, funding for Taiwan, and some other matters.
Then, Sunday, February 11th, after Chaplain Black's opening prayer, Majority Leader Chuck Schumer set the scene for the day's big vote and the day's big game.
Today, the Senate gavels in on a Sunday to continue our work on the National Security Supplemental. In about an hour, we will take the next procedural vote on cloture on the substitute amendment. I can't remember the last time the Senate was in session on Super Bowl Sunday. But as I've said all week long, we're going to keep working on this bill until the job is done.
And with the Senate considering foreign aid for Ukraine, Israel, and Taiwan totaling $95 billion, which, by the way, is roughly the number you get when you double the 49ers, the Super Bowl references kicked off. Here's South Carolina Republican Lindsey Graham 75 minutes before the game started.
In a few minutes, the Super Bowl's going to kick off, and like everybody, most people in the country, are going to go watch the ball game. I've been to Iraq and Afghanistan more times than I can count. 52 was the last time, but more since. Usually with Senator McCain. I've seen the wars, go up and go down. I've seen surges. I've seen mistakes. I've made my own fair share of mistakes. But I cannot tell you how worried I am as an American right now that we've lost our vision when it comes to defending America.
The next speaker, Louisiana Republican Bill Cassidy. He spoke 52 minutes before kickoff.
Abraham Lincoln, when he opened up the Gettysburg Address, said, "Few will little note nor long remember what is said here today." As I rise, as the Super Bowl is about to begin, I realize that most people are looking for a view of Taylor Swift and not listening to us. But nonetheless, I feel compelled to come because we are obviously considering important issues.
At the end of his remarks, Senator Cassidy returned to the big game. By then, just 42 minutes away.
But on this day, when folks are hopefully thinking about the Super Bowl and more pleasant things, I cannot but say that we in the Senate owe it to the American people to both be honest to them and get something done.
Then a lateral to the very next speaker, Eric Schmidt, Republican from Missouri, home state for one of the Super Bowl teams. Time remaining before kickoff, 40 minutes.
Nevertheless, we are here on Super Bowl Sunday to consider something else. I don't mind working on Super Bowl Sunday. I grew up in a blue-collar family. I'm not, Missourians work hard. Working on a Sunday is no big deal. But you have to ask, what would keep us in today?
Then, with game time rapidly approaching, more football talk from Senator Schmidt.
But it is Super Bowl Sunday. So I guess I will give a Super Bowl analogy or a football analogy about what has happened at our southern border. I wish I'd have been smart enough to think of having like a John Madden board here with the offensive and defensive lines lined up about what the play that Joe Biden drew up in early 2021. But it goes something like this. We had the best defense that football had seen in 45 years. The lowest level of illegal immigration in 45 years. So what defense does Joe Biden put on the field when he comes into office? He doesn't. He takes the defense off the field.
37 minutes later, at 6:40 p.m. Eastern, kickoff. Over 4 hours later, the game ended, 10:46 p.m. But the Senate kept going. The Super Bowl was over, but senators weren't. Debate on the aid bill continued into the next day, and senators kept mentioning the Super Bowl. Here's Kentucky Republican Rand Paul.
People say, why do you come to the floor? Why do you make the poor senators be here over the Super Bowl weekend? Why do you make them cancel their vacations? You think I do it just to be mean or out of spite? I do it because I care about our country. I care about the bankrupting of America. I care about the looting of our treasury.
And here's Ohio Republican and future Vice President J.D. Vance.
I mean, normally these bills, spending $100 billion of American taxpayer money, normally you might expect a real debate. We received text on this on February the 7th. Wednesday, February the 7th is when we received final text on the package that we're voting on today. $100 billion and 5 days of debate, most of which, of course, was occupied by the Super Bowl media cycle. The American people have been deprived of an actual debate on these matters from their elected legislature.
We open with Senator Marco Rubio setting the scene on the Friday before the Super Bowl. Here he is again on the Monday after the Super Bowl.
When was the last time the Senate met over a weekend, Super Bowl weekend of all things, for hours and hours and hours, basically said we're going to stay here till we get it done because it's that important, other than funding the government? When is the last time that you saw Congress and the Senate spend that much time working on something that matters directly, a priority of the American people? It doesn't happen.
So, what was the final score? First, the answer for the Senate aid package. No doubt, like most Americans, you were glued to C-SPAN 2 and C-SPAN radio and missed the game. So you already know the Senate passed the bill 70-29. In the unlikely event that you and just that handful of Americans instead watched the Super Bowl, you know the 49ers beat the Chiefs 25-22. And that prompted Missouri senators to return to the floor and gloat. Here again, Eric Schmidt.
I'm sure everyone watched the Super Bowl last night, where the Kansas City Chiefs won in overtime. I think it was only the second overtime win. Patrick Mahomes, anytime he's got the ball, the last guy to have the ball usually wins, and in big games this is becoming a thing. And the Chiefs essentially now are in a dynasty. So Patrick Mahomes has been in the league for 6 years. He's won 3 Super Bowls, 3 out of 4 trips, 3 in the last 5 years. So it was a great game, and certainly glad our Kansas City Chiefs won, with my not sincerest apologies to the California Senators. I would be probably disingenuous if I said that, but it was a good game, and congratulations to the Chiefs on a well-deserved another championship.
By the way, Senator Schmidt mentioned California senators whose 49ers lost. Neither of them spoke about the Super Bowl. And here's the other senator from Missouri, Republican Josh Hawley.
And I'm here tonight to talk about the foreign aid supplemental that is the pending business on this floor. But before I do that, I have to take a moment of personal privilege, if my colleagues will allow me in light of recent events, just to say a word about the Kansas City Chiefs, who last night in dramatic fashion won their 3rd Super Bowl in the last 5 years. Now, as a lifelong Kansas City fan, it's an incredible privilege to get to congratulate the Chiefs again on this floor, just as I did last year. For those who missed the game, the Chiefs beat the 49ers in a terrific game. Final score of 25-22 in an overtime thriller. Only the second time, I think, in Super Bowl history that a Super Bowl has gone into overtime. Yet again, the Chiefs came back from a double-digit deficit. We're down 10 points at one point in the first half, coming back to win the game, again by a score of 25-22. This is the first time in 19 years now that a team has won back-to-back Super Bowls, and already we in the Kansas City area and Chiefs Kingdom are ready for a three-peat as we gear up for next season.
Alas for Senator Hawley, no three-peat for the Chiefs. The next season, the Philadelphia Eagles won the Super Bowl. They beat Kansas City. By the way, if the Chiefs ever do win the Super Bowl again, next time the gloating might come from another state senators. The Chiefs are moving from Missouri to Kansas, which means this might be the last time we hear Senator Hawley say something like this to someone from Kansas.
Since my good friend Senator Marshall's on the floor, I'll just say that we in Kansas City and Missouri, the Chiefs and Missouri football team, we're so proud to have the Chiefs in Missouri. But hey, we welcome fans from Kansas and all around the country. So it's a great day for Missouri, but also for Chiefs fans everywhere. And you're sure welcome to cheer for them in the great state of Kansas as well.
Finally, the 2024 Senate Super Bowl Sunday session even got the attention of the other chamber. Here's Georgia Republican Congresswoman Marjorie Taylor Greene.
America has been enslaved in $34 trillion in debt. And yet over the weekend, the Senate went into overtime throughout the Super Bowl and beyond into the early morning hours to pass a $95 billion package to fund foreign wars. $95 billion. And not a penny of that goes to anything for any American.
And a historical footnote, Congressman Greene's mention of overtime applies to the Super Bowl as well. Only 2 Super Bowls have ever gone to overtime. In 2017, Super Bowl LI, and in 2024, Super Bowl LVIII. And now a bonus clip. A few hours before kickoff of the 2024 Super Bowl, and while the Senate was deliberating foreign policy, President Joe Biden tweeted a video. The topic of President Biden's video? Well, it wasn't $95 billion in foreign aid.
The Super Bowl Sunday. If you're anything like me, you like to be surrounded by a snack or two while watching the big game. You know, when buying snacks for the game, you might have noticed one thing. Sports drinks bottles are smaller. A bag of chips has fewer chips, but they're still charging you just as much. And as an ice cream lover, what makes me the most angry is that ice cream cartons have actually shrunk in size, but not in price. I've had enough of what they call shrinkflation. It's a ripoff. Some companies are trying to pull a fast one by shrinking the products little by little and hoping you won't notice. Give me a break. The American public is tired of being played for suckers. I'm calling on companies to put a stop to this. Let's make sure businesses do the right thing now.
By the way, that video featuring President Biden, it was shot in the White House, in the Family Theater, in the East Wing. President Biden is no longer in the White House. Neither is the East Wing. That's it for this episode of C-SPAN's Extreme Mortman, your new home for quips and clips. And even though the Senate likely won't be in session this coming Sunday, instead of the Super Bowl, we still urge you to watch nothing but C-SPAN 2 all night long. For now, thanks for listening, happy searching, and for our closing music, we'll leave you with a presidential campaign ad that ran during the Super Bowl in 2024, the second quarter, and it cost $7 million, from a group supporting the candidacy of Robert F. Kennedy, Jr.
Do you want a man for president who's seasoned through and through? A man who's old enough to know
and young enough to do?
Well, it's up to you, it's up to you. It's strictly up to you.
American Value 2024 is responsible for the contents of this advertisement.